So guys, Mamdani win the New York election. Let's see his victory speech.
Thank you, my friends. The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name as we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change. A mandate for a new kind of politics. A mandate for a city we can afford. And a mandate for a government that delivers exactly that. On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City. And that is because of you. So before I say anything else, I must say this. Thank you. Thank you to the next generation of New Yorkers who refuse to accept that the promise of a better future was a relic of the past. You showed that when politics speaks to you without condescension, we can usher in a new era of leadership. We will fight for you because we are you. Or as we say on Steinway, ana minkum wa ilaykum.
Well guys, let's see how things will go under his leadership. I believe that a lot of his policies and law that want to bring will be actually impossible to actually bring into New York, because it's actually impossible to bring all of that things like free buses or free transports for the people, because they don't actually have money to do that. Also, a lot of billionaires and millionaires or real estate tycoon will probably go away from New York, so I don't think that is possible what he's saying. I only want to be honest with you, so I hope that he can do something, but I don't believe that he will do what he says. I was actually watching this video of this channel, and they say that it's probably impossible doing all that things. I want to see it with you.
When you look at the price of gold right now and realize how rapidly it's going up, and the price of gold is an indication as to how stable the market thinks your economy is, and it's saying, bro, you're in real trouble. Everything that is wrong with the economy right now is based on debt, money printing. Mamdani is going to make that worse. The buses are never going to be free. Nothing is ever going to be free. Everything is going to be paid for by somebody, but this all becomes abstracted. If New York decides that what they want is free buses, then my only question is, what aren't you going to do to be able to pay for that? If what we see is a measurable improvement in something that we all care about based on that, and you don't see capital flight because they're like, okay, yeah, this is a thing that's worth paying for, great, no problem. I have exactly zero belief that that's how this is going to go. I think he's doing it from an ideological standpoint. I think no matter what happens economically, whether he gets the funding or not, whether tax revenue goes down or not, he's going to keep pushing his agenda because he believes from an ideological standpoint, this is what we ought to do. The city's too expensive. I think that housing has become too expensive essentially ubiquitously across all of America. I think it is one of the most catastrophic problems. We have tried rent freezes before in New York. In fact, we're doing rent freezes already in New York.
Yeah, correct.
It hasn't solved the problem. We did rent freezes in the extreme back in the 60s and 70s, and it led to the burned out buildings in the 70s and 80s. People do not understand that even buildings, housing is an entrepreneurial endeavor. It is somebody who their product is an apartment complex.
Yeah, there will probably be less buildings for the poor guys and also for the weak people. So probably only real estate tycoon with a lot of money will probably buy at sales, because the market will be less cost, but only for the rich one, not for the poor one, guys. So only with people with millions.
Buy that product because you want to live inside of it. And what ends up happening is, imagine if I told you, hey, you can't charge them that amount for a pair of shoes. Well, all of a sudden, the number of people making shoes goes down because it has a knock-on consequence to all the things that they can make those shoes from. And so upkeep in a building, to take it back to real estate, when you put rent freezes, they're like, well, you've now just made it impossible for me to make money off my building. Maybe you make it break even, which just reduces somebody's incentive because they're like, wait, I'm going to have to work this hard and I'm going to have nothing to show for it. Why would I do that? So people aren't going to run businesses out of charity. What ends up happening is people go, wait a second, if at those rents, I can't afford to repair the plumbing, for instance. So they don't. And they tell you, wrap a towel around it. And so you end up in a situation, this is real, you end up where a quarter of all of the buildings that burned in the Bronx were due to arson because it was cheaper to burn the building and collect the insurance money than it was to try to upkeep it. When you start mapping Marxist beliefs on somebody who's really trying to make the poor's life better, you're going to be eternally confused because they'll do things that are so obviously well documented that it doesn't work, and they do it anyway. So it's like, why are they doing that? If you map them as resentful people who want to punish the wealthy, all of a sudden all of their moves make sense. In the cross-cultural study, what they found was if people had the opportunity to create a tax policy that made the poor's lives better, but also helped the wealthy, they won't vote for it. Not as much as they'll vote for something that makes the life of the poor worse, but punishes the wealthy. Across cultures, the thing that people will actually vote for is the thing that hurts the rich. They won't vote for the thing that helps the poor. And so helping the poor would be let the free market stop putting so many regulations on housing and let people go in and build new apartments.
And also, you are actually helping the rich, because you are not helping the poor. You are helping rich people to buy at sales more building. So it's not a good idea.
Build new buildings and charge whatever rent they can get away with charging. Now, putting some restrictions on it, like we're not going to let foreign investors buy property. Okay, I get that. With every additional property that a person buys, just charge them bigger and bigger taxes. If somebody wants to buy the third property and you're charging them 50% tax, okay, well, that's on them. Let them do their thing. Very simple things like that would, over, let's say, the next 5 years, make housing very, very simple.
I don't think that's necessarily a fault of the policy as opposed to a fault of the person.
Of course, it's a fault policy.
I feel like we should be more mad at the arsonist and not mad at the person whose rents are lower.
You should be mad at the arsonist because it's illegal.
Okay.
You should also recognize that the government put them in that position. And I would bet dollars to donuts if I described a scenario where, let's say that your mom had bought a house, her whole life was like, when I get to 65, I'm going to retire. I'm going to move to a really small apartment near my son. I'm counting on the rent that I'm going to be able to get from that house. And my upkeep on the house with property taxes and maintenance and all of that, let's say, is $1,700 a month. And then the government comes along and says, you can't charge more than $1,500 a month for that apartment. Now your mom's like, hold on a second. Now I'm losing money every month with no hope of ever making
Or you can sell the building.
Who's going to buy the building when I say you can't make money? You will lose money. And so now your mom is like, no one's going to buy this. So you just tank the value of my real estate because anybody even considering buying this building is going to ask, can I make money off of maintaining it, off of the property taxes? And if the answer is no, she's left holding a building that she literally can't sell. That's what happens. And now, you remember, this is your mom who for 30 years paid into this building with a plan for how she was going to retire. And then somebody says you can't charge what the market is willing to pay. And now your mom's entire plan for the rest of her life is just over. She can't sell the building. And now she's looking at it going, I have to get the money out of that. Otherwise, I'm going to be working until the day that I die. And this is where people get put into desperate situations. Now, I'm not saying that your mom is a good person if she burns the building down, but I am saying I get why one day late at night, she's like, well, that is an option.
Housing, I think, is a different bucket here. Even the grocery store thing, I can kind of take that point and see is at a different bucket.
So you know the way to make housing more affordable is to make more housing. You come up with a narrative that we can't build up, which I totally reject wholeheartedly.
I'm just saying when we build up, especially in New York City, you've never seen a high rise that's more affordable than the unit that it replaces.
So now your beef is, I don't want there to be places like Beverly Hills that poor people, they just can't afford this neighborhood.
That's all of Manhattan.
Fine.
So you're saying it's fine that they can't afford it?
Yes, of course I'm saying it's fine they can't afford it.
But I thought the problem was housing affordability.
Yes, of course. You don't have a right to live in whatever neighborhood you want to live in. What I'm saying is stop artificially making it impossible for people to live somewhere that it's the government regulation is making it impossible. For instance, stop freezing rents. Because if building a building a building in Manhattan was lucrative, then a whole bunch of people would do it. And if a whole bunch of people were doing it and renovating these buildings and knocking them down and building new things with more tenants, it's going to become more affordable. Now, if in doing that, the wealthiest people in America are like, actually, I want to migrate to the city. Yes, it is very possible that given that is just a fixed, finite piece of land, that the wealthiest people are going to keep pouring in. But my instinct is that isn't going to be true.
It's the number one city in the world, arguably.
Right, but are you trying to regulate who can and can't come there? I don't understand. If you are saying no neighborhood should ever be able to be out of reach of, and I don't know if you'd say anyone, but are you saying every neighborhood should have low-income housing?
I have not said that, no.
Perfect. Then now you're just into what you just said a minute ago, which is there will always be a supply and demand problem when Manhattan is of finite size. What I'm saying is the free market is going to lower the prices. It's not going to take them up. Regulation is going to take them up. It's not going to lower them. So I'm saying, yeah, it's possible that an area just becomes so desirable for a whole host of reasons. Take the Hollywood Hills, for instance. The Hollywood Hills are always going to...
I think that these people speak like this because they can afford housing, so they actually don't care about businesses, about new houses, about not creating jobs or other things. They only care about themselves and fail to understand that a lot of businesses will fail because of these policies, I believe.
be more expensive because they have a view. And there's just always going to be a certain type of person that's going to be willing to pay for that view. So limited amount of hills.
How many additional units we try to build on Hollywood Hills, we are going to reach the upper threshold.
Yeah, exactly.
We ran out of hills.
Right. But I'm saying if you want to lower it as much as you can, then you would deregulate as much as is safe. I'm not saying you take it to zero. And then if you're going to put limitations on it, put limitations of habitation. So I get a regulation that says you can only own a house here if you actually live in it at least 51% of the time or whatever. Now you're going to find out when it is single family ownership, single family dwellings, what becomes the price. And then if that price is just, it's too high, there's so many people that can afford that place and want to live in that place. Well, Manhattan is just more or less off limits for anybody that's making less than whatever, $350,000 a year.
I understand the A to Z of what that laid out, but the end results of that policy would be, this is just how much it is. Either you got it or you don't. It's like you're at the bar. It's at the club.
That's always going to be the case.
You got the cover.
You can't own a house on a minimum wage job. It's just not going to be possible.
Now enter Mamdani, who's saying there are people who are quote unquote residents of New York, who are born in New York, who are now getting priced out of this same thing because the demand is too high, because the prices are rising, because New York is the #1 city in the world, because people are still flooding in. They are getting priced. So what he's saying is, I'm going to artificially hold this amount of units just so that way I can help those specific people.
And if it worked, I'd cheer for it. It doesn't work. It goes the exact opposite direction. It will make a housing crisis. It will make it so that nobody wants to invest in the area.
There's rent-controlled units now. There's people who still want to live in New York. New York does not have a vacancy problem. I guess this is the fundamental, this is a values problem. So I think we could talk about housing.
But you have to tell me what the end result is that you want to get to.
Drew personally understands how the economics are working. The reason I'm trying to argue Mamdani's point is because I think a lot of times when we talk about him on the show, it becomes, oh, that's a socialist. And we kind of minimize like what
Drew,
he's trying to.
Mamdani's policy is full retard. It is so ignorant to how economies work that the very thing I'm screaming for is for people to just follow the math. If you follow the math, you realize if you make it impossible for business to run, then business stops running. Business is how you get affordable homes in anywhere. And he's breaking that equation. We've run this scenario before, not only here, but all over the world. It doesn't work sometimes. It literally never.
I don't know why in school in America, they don't actually learn from Marxism, from communism, from socialism during the history. Because I believe that if they actually study this argument, they would probably understand why these things will probably fail, and it could probably harm a lot of people. So I don't know why they don't study it. Probably history is not that important in USA, because nobody seems to care about this argument. I don't know. It's my personal opinion.
Works.
But we're doing that now, though, and that's the thing that I think.
True.
When I
literally hear yourself. You're saying, "Hey, New York is totally fucked. It's totally broken," and we're already running his policy. That's my fucking point. Is even now, when you have some small amount of it going on, it hasn't solved shit, because what it does is it tells investors, don't invest here.
I think that probably if we could show these people data and analysis and other type of study that were conducted, people would actually understand why we are screaming that it will probably fail. But I think that people didn't actually study the data and the analysis. It's my opinion, obviously.
Zoran Mamdani wins New York's mayoral election.
This is a historic win.
Tonight, you have delivered a mandate for change.
This 34-year-old state assemblyman, largely unknown a year ago, got plenty of pushback.
I believe that Zoran Mamdani is a threat to my constituents.
I disagree wholeheartedly with Zoran Mamdani.
Yet, despite rattling even members of his own party, his bold ideas have struck a chord with New Yorkers.
Wall Street has been clearly humbled with this race. Initially, they thought his campaign was a joke. Then they worked hard to defeat him, used insults.
This is a story of a very savvy, young, upstart candidate who knew exactly what the pain points were of New Yorkers.
We're gonna build a city where no one has to struggle to survive.
And he knew how to communicate to them in a way that his opponent simply wasn't able to.
We're voting you off the island.
And his popularity has gained a certain someone's attention, making many wonder if it could spill out over to the rest of the country.
For everyone.
He's a disaster. That's a terrible thing for our country. He's a communist.
There is a segment that is reaping the benefits of the market boom. But there are many other segments of this society that have been languishing. Something's clearly broken, and that is how you get a mayor like Mamdani.
Also says something about where voters, not just in New York City, but maybe across the country, are in terms of what they think the solutions are to the country's affordability problems.
So, how did the capital of capitalism end up electing a mayor who's a democratic socialist?
I actually believe that Cuomo and Sliwa weren't actually good candidate to fight Mamdani. Mamdani was a great speaker, was really good, and he actually conquered all of the minorities in New York City. And the other two actually failed in this, so people actually feel him like he's cool, he's young, he's progressive. And the other two instead weren't, so they actually failed, I think, in a communication type of view.
New York City, the city that never sleeps. But when New Yorkers do, they're usually in a rental. Roughly 2 out of 3 lease their home.
The rent is too damn high.
New York City has been an expensive place for decades.
Our children can't afford to live.
There was a candidate for governor named Jimmy McMillan who ran on a platform that he called "The rent is too damn high." And he also ran for mayor, and he was sort of seen as a not serious candidate at the time, but the argument, I think a lot of people would argue, was valid.
Rent burden is traditionally thought of as a problem for the working class, but now it's knocking on the doors of the city's highest earners.
I'm talking about people who are earning between $100,000 and $300,000 a year who for the first time are considered rent burdened. They're spending more than a third of their take-home pay on their rent.
The rent is so crazy in the Bronx. I don't know how.
When pop stars are complaining about rent, you know the housing crunch is no joke.
The city has been really jolted by the effects of the pandemic. And since then, we've seen the prices of rents spike astronomically.
Whether it's landlords clawing back COVID-era losses or tons of luxury development, rents citywide climbed 27% between 2020 and 2024, outpacing other major U.S. metros. But all costs of living are going up. Grocery prices have been on the rise for most of the past 5 years, with New York City outpacing the national average. And full-time daycare can cost $26,000 a year per child. The Mamdani campaign zeroed in on this crisis and offered up some pointed policies to address them. The question is, how much can he really achieve? One of his most popular proposals is a rent freeze. And the truth is, he could get this done.
The mayor appoints all 9 members of this body called the Rent Guidelines Board. Those members tend to vote the way that the mayor who appointed them wants them to.
The plan, however, would only apply to the city's nearly 1 million rent-stabilized apartments. And questions remain how this will ease the strain on renters.
For people who live in those rent-stabilized apartments, freezing the rent is a really significant factor in maintaining affordability for them. The issue is that, according to the landlords, the costs of operating those buildings have become really expensive.
And so there is this criticism of his plan, which is that it could actually result in lower supply of apartments.
2 other campaign proposals were free buses and free childcare for young kids. Ideas that are pretty popular with other New York politicians.
It's really possible that the state could agree to give him some money to fund fast and free buses, which he said would cost about $750.
I think that the fact that people want to live in New York and can afford that is a really, really big component of the fact that these policies are really, really popular between the poor people. Because poor people don't understand that they can live, they can afford to live there, but they also really, really want to live there. So they say, if I can live there, the rich don't have to live there. I think that there is their reasoning, actually.
$1 million. It's possible that they could give him some money to help pay for a little bit of the universal child care program that he's promised.
Childcare is more expensive than people's rent.
Another Mamdani idea is to launch city-run supermarkets.
Grocery prices are out of control.
The pilot program is actually cheaper than some of his other proposals and could end up in the city budget.
The idea is to open a grocery store in each borough where the city is controlling the prices in order to offer people a more affordable option.
In order to help pay for such programs, Mamdani has proposed a 2% tax increase on residents earning more than $1 million a year, as well as a bump to the state's corporate tax rate. This has Wall Street and some in the broader business community warning of blowback.
The reality is the services that we provide to the people of our city and our state significantly rely on the profits of Wall Street.
Millionaires paid about 40% of all personal income taxes in New York State.
Taxing the millionaires it could probably result fatal, because if you remove like the 10% of these billionaires or billionaires, you will probably have a lot of problem in repaying other like if the other fields of the cake. Like if you want to build new type of flats or housing, you won't build that because millionaires won't pour in more money of their tax, and government won't have the money to pay that.
They are essential to the operation of things like the schools in New York.
But the rich are also earning a lot more. Nearly 30% of all income reported in New York State went to millionaires. And don't get Mamdani started about billionaires.
I don't think that we should have billionaires. For a man who said he doesn't like the idea of billionaires, running for an important seat in a city full of them once again revives conversations about the potential for the power center shifting away from New York.
But Mamdani's control over taxes is very limited.
The mayor of New York City has almost no authority to raise revenue on his own. He needs the approval of the state legislature and the approval of New York Governor Kathy Hochul.
Any tax increase has to come across my desk first. I will work with whomever the mayor is as long as...
So he basically made some promises that he won't actually take on, because probably the governor won't approve that. So they're just promises to the poor. I think that the poor will get smashed by this. I'm actually really sorry for New Yorkers.
They want to help foster my policies, which is pro-growth, pro-business.
New York's finances aren't helped by this so-called big beautiful bill slashing federal funding to social programs nationwide.
New York is facing a budget hole, and it's also facing cuts from the federal government that it's going to have to contend with in the years to come. The jobs are basically where they were before the pandemic happened. But subway ridership, for example, is 74% of where it was. Office vacancies double from what it was before the pandemic. So the question is, will Mamdani get any money from Albany to run any of his social programs? Or will New Yorkers actually be getting a tax increase regardless because of the budget gap, and that money probably won't go to Mamdani?
Yet a massive wealth flight from New York City seems...
I think that probably the major part of the poor people, so not the millionaires, but also the middle class will get taxed and won't be able to escape from New York, and they'll probably pay the cost for it. So it will be a tragedy, because the millionaire and the billionaires will have the assets to escape from it. Again, it's my personal point of view, I don't know.
Unlikely. And business leaders have softened on Mamdani.
We've seen some of this rhetoric before. Not all of that rhetoric panned into the reality of a mass exodus from the city. And oftentimes what happens is business leaders realize that simply repeating the threat of leaving the city will be seen as somewhat of a selfish act.
Many of them are saying that they found him to be a good listener.
I can see why he's in the position he's in. He was articulate, engaging.
If he becomes mayor, I will call him and offer my help.
Mamdani has shown a penchant for finding commonalities between groups.
For a long time in New York, the key to winning election has been to cobble together a coalition of different ethnic groups. What Mamdani has done is appeal to people on an economic argument.
Thank you to the next generation of New Yorkers who refuse to accept that the promise of a better future was a relic of the past.
And he's managed to do this despite opposition and political attacks over his fierce criticism of Israel, an issue that remains divisive.
I think that if powerful people could actually help him in adjust his policy, it would probably become a good leader for New York, only if he adjusts his policies.
Within the Democratic Party.
Jewish spaces.
All of this comes at a time of rising anti-Semitism in New York, home to the largest number of Jews outside of Israel.
For someone who is so prominent a critic of the Israeli government to succeed and win in New York City represents a sea change in the city's political alignment. That has some New Yorkers and some Jewish New Yorkers really concerned.
To be Muslim in New York.
Mamdani himself has been the subject of Islamophobic attacks.
He'll be the first Muslim mayor of New York City ever in 400 years. He'll be the first South Asian mayor. The population of Asian Americans has grown to be somewhere around 15%. It's the fastest growing ethnic group in New York City.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
Mamdani's brand of populism has some leaders in the Democratic Party taking notes.
This result will have a massive impact on how the Democratic Party decides to tackle the midterm elections and the general election.
But in New York City, Mamdani's success will hinge on bringing everyone to the table.
If the business community doesn't feel welcome here, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to take their business elsewhere, but it may just mean that they don't invest in the future here.
Now that he is in office, they will have to engage with him to shape the city in the direction that they would like to see it go.
Sliwa concedes the mayoral election to Mamdani, and I think that this man is really great. He's a really good man. I also see a lot of video of him, and he lives with 17 cats, so I believe that, and he was also a guardian angel in the 79, I believe. So it was a really good person. I really think that he will be a good candidate for New York, so I will probably vote him.
And I want to applaud everybody in New York City who came out to exercise their right to vote. We will be setting a new record. It hasn't been achieved since I was a young boy watching the election in 1969 of John Lindsay. Over 2 million voters. We need to applaud all New Yorkers because men have died in battle so that we have the right to vote. In this case, to choose our next mayor and other elected officials, and the precious right of free speech, which we need to preserve. The answer to hate speech is more free speech, and that's what we represent. But this has always been us versus them. This has always been us versus them. From the time I declared my candidacy, the masters of the universe, the billionaires, decided that I should not have the right to represent all of you, to be the voice of the voiceless, the working class people who are the backbone of this city. So the billionaires and the insiders and the influencers continue to put the pressure on to say, Curtis, you don't have the right to run. We will determine who the next mayor is. And you remember what I told them. No, no, no.
And also, they also try to bribe him for 10 million to don't run.
And then they bribed me as much as $10 million. And I'll never forget, my great wife Nancy was listening to that final call when a person said to me, come on, Curtis, everybody has a price. Well, guess what? We don't have a price. You can't buy us, rent us, lease us. We are not for sale. We are the people.
I really like this man. I believe that he's really genuine and true. So I'm a bit angry that he didn't win, but again, I think that Mamdani was a bigger speaker, and it was also more progressive, and it was also better for the young people. I believe that the people actually chose him for his young age and for his new policies. I don't actually like the policies, but I hope that he will make New York better.